What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Flea Flicker with Jackson Kane. This is the Week 7 installment. It's Saturday. Great day to be alive. Some great games going on this weekend, so let's get right to it. QB love this week. Kirk Cousins at Detroit. The Lions have allowed 17 passing TDs in 2016, which is the league lead. So Kirk Cousins, great play this week. Do not sit him, start him. Andy Dalton versus Cleveland. Browns are allowing over 21 fantasy points to QBs this year. No Joe Hayden for the Browns, so start Andy Dalton. Phillip Rivers at Atlanta. The prototypical shootout type quarterback in a shootout type game. Lock him in for 3 touchdowns at least. QB hate. Carson Wentz versus Minnesota. Any QB going up against the Vikes is a bad call, really. The Vikes are 5th best against fantasy QBs this year and are one of 4 teams with at least 19 sacks. So you can't really throw touchdowns from your back. So sit Carson Wentz. Carson Palmer versus Seattle. The Legion of Boom has allowed the 3rd lowest amount of completions this season, 98. And Carson Palmer has been dealing with a hamstring injury this week. So that's not good for his outlook. Ryan Tannehill versus the Bills. Buffalo has allowed only 3 passing TDs this year and just 11 fantasy points to QBs. Wide receiver love this week. Allen Robinson versus Oakland. Raiders are giving up over 25 fantasy points to the position this year and have also allowed the most receiving yards to wideouts this year, 1,230. So start Allen Robinson. Mike Evans at San Fran. The Niners trail only the Ravens for TDs allowed to wide receivers this year. Ravens have allowed 12. The Niners have allowed 10. So, love Mike Evans. Vincent Jackson was just placed on IR, so I expect a monster outing from Mike Evans. AJ Green versus the Browns. The Browns have allowed the 2nd most passing TDs this year, 16, and the 2nd most 20-plus yard completions with 25. And also no Joe Hayden. So love the Andy Dalton, AJ Green pairing. Wide receiver hate this week. I feel really bad for this guy. He had a great year last year with like 4 different QBs thrown to him. He still tore it up. DeAndre Hopkins at Denver. Lowest amount of completions and yards allowed this season would be the Denver offense or defense to the position. And they are the only team to allow just 1 TD to receivers this year. Sit DeAndre Hopkins. Emmanuel Sanders versus Houston. Houston allowing just over 15 fantasy points to wide receivers. That's good for 3rd best in the league. Don't like the matchup this week. Stephon Diggs at Philly. Eagles have surrendered just 2 TDs to the position this season. And also, he's fresh off a hamstring injury, so who knows how healthy he's going to be. Running back love this week. Spencer Ware versus the Saints. Saints are the only team to have allowed over 10 total TDs to running backs this season. They've allowed 11. Lock him into your lineup. DeMarco Murray versus the Colts. Colts are 2nd worst against running backs. Over 23 fantasy points allowed and 9 total TDs. So DeMarco Murray, I feel like he's on my running back love every week, but he should be. Jaquiz Rodgers at San Fran. The Niners have allowed the most rushing yards to running backs this season with 893 and 9 rushing TDs. So start Jaquiz Rodgers. Hate for running backs this week. Frank Gore at Tennessee. Titans, 7th best defense against running backs. They've allowed just 3 rushing TDs on the season, so sit Frank Gore. Ryan Matthews versus Minnesota. I think you can see a theme. I don't like players playing against Minnesota. And that's because their defense is just great. They're awesome. No 20-plus yard runs allowed by that defense this year. Not a good look for Ryan Matthews in Week 7. Surprising name here on the list for running back hate, Le'Veon Bell against the Patriots. I know he's Le'Veon Bell, but with Landry Jones starting at QB, New England will key in on him. That's what Belichick does. He takes away your best option. So I think he'll get the volume, a lot of carries, a lot of catches, but I just think it's a tough matchup. So don't sit him, but don't expect big things. Tight end love this week, Hunter Henry At Atlanta, he's had over 60 plus yards receiving the last 4 games. Falcons fourth worst against fantasy tight ends this year. They're allowing 11.8 fantasy points to the position. Gary Barnidge at Cincy. Terrell Pryor has been dealing with an injury, so he might not play this week. Even if he does, I'd expect Barnidge to get a uptick in targets. He's had 57 plus yards in 4 straight games, so like Gary Barnidge. Charles Clay at Miami. No Robert Woods this week for Buffalo. He's posted 5 catches in 3 straight games, so Charles Clay could see more targets, and Miami is 10th worst against tight ends this year, so like Charles Clay. Hate for tight ends. Kyle Rudolph at Philly. Just 8 catches allowed by the Eagles to the position this year. I believe 93 yards and 1 touchdown allowed. Zach Ertz versus Minnesota. Above average against tight ends this year would be Minnesota. Have yet to allow a TD to the position. Kobe Fleener at Kansas City. Just 15 receptions allowed to tight ends this year. Average of 3.6 fantasy points per game to the position. So sit Kobe Fleener. All right, chance to dance this week. Lamar Miller, thank you. You broke the curse last week. I'm going with Mike Evans this week against San Fran. San Fran has allowed almost 31 points per game to opponents, so I'm hoping 6 of them go to Mike Evans. Waste of space, DeAndre Hopkins. Mentioned him earlier for the wide receiver hate. Denver secondary, just too good. 3 bold predictions this week. Drew Brees and Alex Smith will combine for at least 500 passing yards. That's my first one. Jaquiz Rodgers will have at least 90 total yards this week. And Le'Veon Bell will have less than 140 total yards. I know that's not very bold, but in 2 of his 3 games, he's had over 150 total yards. Last week, I think he had 108. So I think he's going to have less than 140 total yards this week. And one last thing before I go. Reminder, Giants-Rams starts early tomorrow morning. I think maybe 8:30. So if you have yet to set your lineups, set your lineups. Get those guys in or out that you want from that game. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Enjoy week 7. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.